Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Winfree, and what you're about to listen to is, in fact, the final, as of this recording at least, episode of Everyone Loves a Bad Guy. Little bit emotional going back through some of these and coming to the end again. Now, this is not the last one that we're going to re-air. There's still a few more of those to come, but in its original run, chronologically, this was the last episode. The show basically went away in November or so of 2015 for a variety of reasons, all of which are me. However, I had made a promise to a good friend of mine that there was a bit of material we had never covered that we both wanted to do. So when it basically went away, I told him next year, when the time comes, you and I will tackle this. So leading to on October 28th of 2016, after almost a year off, in essentially cancellation, a special one-of return. Again, as of this recording, one of return. Myself and Benjamin J. Cologne got together and got to geek out over the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. He and I are both very well documented Simpsons fans and Simpsons nerds, and we had not discussed on Everyone Loves a Bad Guy the Treehouse of Horror annual tradition. Oh, that's a gag that comes from one of the episodes, actually. An annual custom that became a yearly custom that became an annual tradition, I believe was the exact wording. So this is the two of us getting together and talking about our favorite shorts and how the villainy that goes into any of the individual episodes and shorts plays into the overall themes and just having a good time talking about The Simpsons. Uh, I'm very glad that if that does remain the last episode of that show, it went out on a high note. It was talking with Ben about that was a lot of fun. And The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror is, of course, a wonderful bit of subject matter to cover anyway. So, yeah, that was the last one. Man. All right. Not to become overly maudlin. So back to your regularly scheduled shilling. If you could please help out the podcast by giving us a like, comment, subscribe, share, star rating, written review, personal recommendation, anything that you can do to help out the show in that respect is always and eternally appreciated. Another way you can help out the show if you don't feel like doing any of that is supporting our sponsors. We have a couple of them over here. First up, Grammarly. For you listeners of the W2M network, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes, while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork to download Grammarly for free. Also supporting the podcast is Amazon Music. If you would like a free, completely free, 30 days of the Amazon Music Unlimited service, we've got your back. Go to getamazonmusic.com/W2Mnetwork and you will get a free 30 days of ad-free access to the 70 million plus songs and podcasts and other audio properties that is available on Amazon Music. It's a great service, and after 30 days, if you decide it's worth it, you can start paying and keep it. If you decide it's not, you've lost nothing at all. You've just gained a free 30 days of access to all of that content. So, if you could please support either of those, either typing in the links or going to the links in the description below. There will be links to both of those down in the description of the podcast. If you could support those, very much appreciated. With all of that out of the way, last bit of note here. There's a bit of audio issue with parts of Ben's call when he calls in. It goes to the relationship between Skype and Blog Talk, which was, I think, at its best abusive. I've tried fixing it a few different ways. I've not been able to find anything that smooths it out, and I don't want to cut off the start of every sentence he says. So just be aware of that. That was part of the reason we switched services anyway. So I thank you for your patience in bearing with that. With all that out of the way, past me with the last episode of Everyone Loves a Bad Guy. Take it away.
When the devil is too busy and debt's a bit too much, they call on me by name, you see, for my special touch. To the gentlemen, I'm misfortune. To the ladies, I'm surprise. But call me by any name, anyway, it's all the same. I'm the fly in your suit, I'm the pedal in your shoe, I'm the key beneath your bed, I'm the bump on every head, I'm the peel on which you slip, I'm the pin in every head, I'm the thorn in your side, makes you wriggle and ride. And it's so easy when you're evil. This is the life you see, the devil tips his hat to me. I do it all because I'm evil, and I do it all for free. Your tears are all the pay I'll ever need.
That actually responded rather quickly. I'm used to there being a substantial lag time between my interaction with Blog Talk and the actual response. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Everyone Loves a Bad Guy. I'm Robert Winfree. I'm your host. This used to be a weekly show. It's been on hiatus for a while for a variety of reasons, mostly personal. But I was reminded a little bit earlier this month of a promise that I had made to a friend of mine to do one of these on the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror villains. For those of you who don't know, I did a show previously with Mark Radulich talking specifically about The Simpsons, and the reality is, I mean, look, there are Simpsons podcasts out there for people who just talk about The Simpsons, and I have one episode under my belt as far as talking about them goes, and specifically focusing on, the villainous aspects of various characters, and, some characters who are not villains, who are just, weird or incompetent or somewhat buffoonish. So if you're interested, you can go back into the archives on Blog Talk Radio or iTunes, and you can find that episode. Mark and I wax poetic about The Simpsons. Tonight, however, instead of a general overlook, we're going to be talking specifically about, again, The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, their annual Halloween episodes, the yearly custom that became an annual tradition. In no small part because, again, a good friend of mine who we are trying to get on the show right now, but Blog Talk is notoriously difficult to work with at times, so hopefully he should be joining us in the near future. But we'll be just looking at those, again, the Halloween episodes. So thank you all for tuning in. This show had a smaller fan base, but apparently a rather devoted one. As when I announced that we were doing this one, I got some pretty positive feedback from those involved. So for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, this show, I'll give a little background because again the show's been on hiatus for. This show focuses specifically on looking at villainous characters, looking at different story archetypes, different intellectual properties, specific stories, through the prism of the villains, the importance of a good villain to narrative cohesion, things of that nature specifically, because I've had a bit of a fascination with them since I was a small child, and that's kind of what spawned this show. And you can find all the beauty of on-demand audio. You can find all of the previous shows in the archives. So by all means, go ahead and look them back up. Okay, and now we've got him. My friend of mine who I've done several podcasts with, including one yesterday, the author, publisher, artist behind Soul Exodus. It's a comic. I believe you can find it at soulexo.com. title card artist for The Long Road to Ruin, and just an all-around swell human being. Benjamin J. Cologne is with us. How you doing, Benjamin? You finally got the email invites, apparently.
Yeah, both of them.
Yay, Blog
Same
Talk.
time. Yay, Blog Talk.
Well, you get what you pay for, and I don't pay for this at all. The capital investment is solely Mark Radlich's up to this point, so.
Well,
all right. How you doing? You doing okay? I mean, we talked to each other last night, so it's not like there's a wealth of information to catch up on.
there's so much that can happen in 24 hours.
Very true.
I'm relatively good. Just got back from the gym, so I'm a little better. I'm appropriately adrenalized.
Oh, that's good. All right. You mentioned to me, last year around the same time that you wanted, we should do this one specifically on The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. If nothing else, I should probably get another episode of just The Simpsons look out of it, because the last one that Mark and I didn't cover nearly as much territory as I expected it to. But, The Simpsons is a surprisingly deep intellectual property at times. So, your Simpsons geekdom probably exceeds my own, and that's saying something. I'm a substantial fan. So maybe a little bit of your background on The Simpsons and why you really wanted to talk about the Treehouse of Horror episodes.
I am, I've been the Simpsons geek, since I was a very, very little kid, since the Tracy Ullman days. I remember very specifically watching the very first episode of the show. And I've been watching, for better or worse, ever since. Not as religiously as I used to, but one of the things that I used to do, first of all, watching the show in syndication kind of helped my geekdom along, and then when DVD became a thing, I got box sets of all of my favorite seasons, which is pretty much the first 10. And one thing I took to doing a lot was actually, just pretty much throwing them in the DVD player while I was drawing, while I draw. So, for most of my projects and most of the comics that I've done, there's usually a substantial amount of time of that production spent also watching The Simpsons. So it's kind of subliminal at this point. Treehouse of Horror is always good for, especially the early ones, always good for a laugh. Some of the best episodes they've ever produced. And honestly, the first time you and Mark did the regular Simpsons episode of Everyone Loves a Bad Guy, it actually kind of inspired me to seek out a bunch of other Simpsons podcasts, which I now listen to as regularly as possible. One of them, shout out to Worst Episode Ever podcast, who reviews actually post-classic Simpsons episodes and kind of ranks them and, kind of dissects them. And they're also based out of New York City, so they actually host the Simpsons Trivia Night that I've started going to monthly since the beginning of this year, and that I actually just won first place at for the first time this month. So shout out to those guys.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, let's start out here. I know you and I both have lists of our favorite villains from the Treehouse of Horror episodes, and for those of you who, this is going to sound really stupid and is probably entirely unnecessary, but for those of you who have never seen an episode of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror,
get out.
Get out. Yeah, just I don't want your listen. Your money's no good to me. Just you're dead to me. They're comprised of three shorter episodes, three shorter stories that make up the whole of the episode. There are some good, there are some bad. Again, Benjamin and I both have lists of our favorite villains from those that have a substantial amount of overlap, which is fine and dandy. Because the good ones are really good. But before we get into that, I'm curious, do you have like a top 5 favorite shorts, not just full episodes, but individual shorts from the series that you really just speak to you personally, that you always get a laugh out of?
Well, certainly, I think at least 3 of them would come out of Treehouse of Horror 5, because that is
pretty much the best.
that's pretty much widely considered. There are a few people that'll try to scalp you if you don't agree that that's the best Treehouse of Horror. It's that's kind of the murderer's row of Simpsons Halloween specials. It's The Shinning, which I'm sure we'll get into. Was it Time and Punishment?
And Nightmare Cafeteria.
Nightmare Cafeteria, which is underrated. A lot of people consider that the weakest one. I think it's at least as good as the other two.
I'd completely agree with that. Anytime Skinner goes full-blown evil, I'm always happy.
It's worth it just for Skinner's school crossing apron.
That's so true. Lunch Lady Doris coming out wielding the egg beaters in maniacal fashion is always good for a laugh.
Yeah, and that's also the one that ends with the fog that turns people inside out, right? Which is possibly the goriest thing they've ever done.
I always laugh at that because of Marge's hair's anatomy.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that again.
No, yeah, her hair is not hair after she turns inside out. It apparently is has a full muscular structure that goes up into it, which actually explains the physics behind her hairdo.
Sure, I'm sure they had some fun animating that.
That's also the one where Willie gets the axe in every single episode.
One of the best running gags ever.
I mean, it starts out fair enough, and because The Shining being, of course, a play on The Shining, which I actually saw a couple of nights ago for Fathom Events did a re-release of several movies. They do every month. And The Shining was one of their ones for October, so I got to see that in theaters. Slightly different experience on the big screen. It's been a number of years since I've seen it, and
I kind of wanted to do that I wanted to do that before. I'm gonna have to try to catch that one time that's playing in an actual theater.
Yeah, there's a lot of exteriors in particular. I mean, this was back before movies were shot to be seen on your computer or iPod screen, so
yeah,
they look very cool.
Nice. If we're gonna talk, I've given you three. If we're gonna talk, two more, you'd probably cut me off right now if I didn't mention The Devil and Homer Simpson, because I know that's. I don't know if that's your single favorite. I don't know if that's your single favorite one. It is not my single favorite one, but it is certainly top 5, if not top 3.
It's not my favorite, but I've never argued with anyone who's ever mentioned that it's probably the best.
And last one, depending on what day you catch me on, it'll either be the Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace, just because I'm fans of Long Road to Ruin. We're both big Freddy Krueger fans too, and Day of the Dolphin, which I think gets kind of overlooked because it's a little later in the what's considered the classic Simpsons, but it's also gory as hell too. Like if you go back and watch that, it's really shockingly gruesome.
Drowned clowns. Night of the Dolphin is the final installment from the 11th Treehouse of Horror.
Mm-hmm.
The other two aren't terribly great. You have Ghost Dad and Scary Tales Can Come True.
Yeah.
Which have they both have their moments. The Witch from Scary Tales usually gives me a laugh or two. And, of course, Homer. Ooh, fish. Oh, wait, my head's made of fish.
I can't remember if somebody told me that somebody had actually gotten that as a tattoo at one point, or maybe I'm thinking of Fishball. I can't remember.
Either of them. I imagine there's several people who have instills the animation procedure that led to the Mr. Sparkle icon.
Yeah. There's various Tumblr sites and Instagram pages that completely dedicated to Simpsons tattoos. One of these days I'll probably go down that rabbit hole.
Hey, look, as long as the first one you get is the Devil Ned Flanders, we're good.
Well, I'm talking about just looking at one. Getting man, if I ever get a Simpsons tattoo, I'm spoiled for choice, which means it'll probably take me 20 years to decide.
That's true. Now, ironically enough, one of the lesser respected, I think, episodes of Treehouse of Horror is probably, and again, my answer about what's my favorite will alter depending on the day. It tends to vacillate between Dial Z for zombies, because I'm a sucker for zombies, first and foremost. You killed the zombie Flanders. He was a zombie?
He was a zombie?
Always gets me, every single time. And the fact that he actually hesitates to shoot Barney. And they're Barney, not you two. I'm not a zombie, but, when in Rome. Wow, George Washington.
Take
All the
that,
famous
Washington.
Eat lead, Einstein. Show's over,
Show.
Shakespeare.
Is this the end of zombie Shakespeare? Yeah, you were saying. I think I know what you're about to say. But go ahead.
I was just gonna go with zombie Shakespeare too. That and the other kick I always get out of Dial G for zombies is the words that Bart uses in his various mystical incantations are arranged into, I think, triptychs, which always have these funny. When you catch them, they're always amusing. The one that turns Lisa into a snail, for example, is 3 famous TV sidekicks.
Oh right. I knew Dano from Hawaii Five-0. That's the last thing that he says. I don't remember.
One of the other one is Banachek, and I can't remember the first one, but no, there's 3 of those. The final one that no, they're 4.
Right.
Yeah, not 3. Sorry, I misspoke. The fact that the one that finally puts them all back into the graves is like, what is it? Trojan Ram, Magnum Chic. How they get some of those things past the censors, especially at Fox for the time period, kind of amuses me. I imagine they just weren't paying enough attention.
It was Fox in the very early '90s. They put anything on.
That's true, and for those of us who were alive and watching Fox in the early '90s, there's another Simpsons gag that pertains to that. The 123rd episode spectacular, something like that, where they actually just pitch various spin-offs in the guise of a celebratory episode. And they jokingly show the Fox calendar, which consists of the X-Files on Sunday, the Simpsons, and then a whole lot of nothing.
I think Melrose Place was the only other thing on there, and then a bunch of question marks on the rest of the calendar.
Yeah, because this was after they had canceled Married with Children, which still boggles my mind that they just did that out of the blue between seasons. Like, come on, Married with Children is what built Fox. I mean, fundamentally speaking.
I believe it was the first show when the network first aired. It was the first show they aired.
On the plus side, every now and then I hear rumors about a Netflix revival of like Married with Grandchildren, and I just I get so happy.
I don't know. I think it kind of ran its course by the time it ended, but I guess that's debatable.
I'd take like one season. With, mostly because Sons of Anarchy showed me Katie Seagal in a completely different light, and I now want to laugh at her again. And Ed Harris is consistently great. Christina Applegate could use you, right?
I'm not sure what she's up to. David Faustino probably could.
That's the truth. Anyway, the other episode that I really like, and I like it for the most random reason, is the Omega Man.
Okay.
And it's not highly thought of by the majority of people, but there are 2 reasons that I really get a kick out of that episode. One is a scene that actually gets cut from most rebroadcasts where Homer goes to the movie theater.
Right.
And he steals popcorn from one of the bodies that's next to him, and he obnoxiously yells to a very tall skeleton in front of him, "Down in front," and then kicks its head off and it rolls into the aisle. And as someone who went to theaters before stadium seating became a thing, watching Homer kick someone much taller than him simply to get a better view is oddly cathartic.
Well, as somebody who is fairly short and has had that happen to me routinely at the movies, yeah, I can see that.
Him punching Milhouse's father in the head after he's dead and having it explode and then just still got it.
Maybe a little light punching will move your ass.
It's true. The other thing, and this is the most random thing ever, Homer's naked dance through the church. Because it occurred to me, just the last time I rewatched that episode, it was on television not too long ago. If I ever do survive any kind of major explosion, massive apocalyptic event, now the first thing I have to do, once assuring that, I'm not dying, is find a copy of War and dance naked in a church to it. That image will never leave my mind, and that was something that is on my, post-apocalyptic bucket list.
Not sure if that'd be on my post-apocalyptic bucket list, but it is an interesting prospect.
The joke about lead paint, the fact that Marge and Bart and Lisa all whip out shotguns and blow away the skin-eating freaks.
That got me the first time I saw that. That got me, and to walking back to villains, the mutated Springfield residents are pretty good. I always love the line, you get nuts with the skin eating.
Good old Mo. And between all the killing and the skin eating, we just lost. We forgot about the love. You always lose it with the skin eating.
And
and him swerving to hit the Winters brothers when he's driving the first home.
It's one of those things where here's a whole Simpsons hallmark of, the Simpsons and the creative people behind it have enough faith in their viewers to be able to say, you're not going to get all the references, at least not right away, but you may get them later on. You may look them up. You may come across what we're referencing. I had no idea what that was referencing. I just assumed it was some rock stars or something like that just happened to be very pasty and mutant looking. So that tends to happen from time to time. You don't know, the shinning is based completely around it. Like, I know plenty of people that saw The Shining first and then saw The Shining, and it was kind of like a revelation to them. It's like, oh my god, this is where this is from.
Yeah, I knew of The Shining, but I actually did see The Shining before I ever saw the movie because I saw The Shining as a kid.
I can't remember which one I saw first. I can't imagine that I saw The Shining first, mainly because at the time it was kind of hard to find, and it was not really a thing they showed on regular TV or even cable.
The Shining always kills me because, well, first of all, it's the fact that it's the Tony Awards that finally freaks them out after they're frozen. Because, the
really?
Tonys.
And they call it back because they do that musical number at the end when the fog turns them inside out.
That's true. They do that same musical number.
There's a lot of interconnected stuff. That's why that episode is so great, because it calls back a lot of things. It's also the only other appearance of James Earl. Which
That's true.
I know we'll talk about it at some point, right?
Yeah, no, he is Maggie's voice for Time and Punishment when she's the one who acts as Willie in the back.
And that was actually my team name in trivia this month, which was my team name was This Is Indeed a Disturbing Trivia Night.
Nice.
So that was the team name they got me. They were encouraged to make up wacky team names based on Simpsons quotes. So and they make a point out of reading them all out loud. About halfway through the evening. So there were some Halloween themed ones, not as many as I would have liked for it being October, but I thought I had to think fast because actually that day I was literally coming from Comic-Con to Berry Park in Brooklyn, which is where they hold trivia night, and I was starving. I was trying to inhale a chicken sandwich and at the same time listen to trivia and trying to think of a Halloween themed name, and cursing them in advance if they didn't show Citizen Kang because they show episodes of the show in between trivia rounds.
There couldn't be a more perfect episode of Treehouse of Horror at this point in time than Citizen Kang.
That's what I said, and I was ready to lead a revolt if they didn't show it. I'm like, this is the easiest softball you will ever get, because they do say they like to stay topical from time to time.
Oh yeah, for those of you who have never seen Citizen Kang, watch it. It's about the '96 presidential election in the United States, where Kang
America
and Kodos
flips a coin,
where Kang and Kodos take over. They abduct and then impersonate Bill Clinton and Bob Dole. And right before the election, they're exposed by Homer as being aliens. And they both just kind of look out at the gathered audience and the members of the press and go, yeah, we're aliens, but what are you going to do? It's a two-party system. You have to vote for one of us.
Well, I believe I'll vote for a third-party candidate.
Sure, throw your vote away. I mean, really, they could just release that again, that whole episode, substitute Hillary and Trump for Clinton and Dole, and then just have Gary Johnson punch out the box hat instead of Ross Perot, and you've got the same thing.
It still works.
Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
Is that's probably as good a point as any to start talking about Kang and Kodos, even though
We
really
do have to talk about.
They seriously peaked with that episode.
They do. Yeah, Kang and Kodos. It's weird that of all the enduring kind of running gags the Simpsons have, and there are many to varying degrees of success, Kang and Kodos showing up every Halloween, even if it's just for a cameo, and they actually complain. I forget which episode, but there's one that for a couple of years they were reduced to just cameos, and they actually complained on the phone to their agent about having another cameo. And they get an offer to do commercials for Old Navy, which they accept.
Work is work.
So Kang and Kodos, I mean, they actually poke fun at themselves. What do aliens have to do with Halloween? But they appeared in the first ever Treehouse of Horror as in Hungry Are the Damned in a play on a famous Twilight Zone episode.
Damn good episode too. Damn good Twilight Zone episode too.
Unfortunately, I saw Hungry Are the Damned first. So when I actually saw the episode, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I know where this is going. But yeah, it is. The Twilight Zone has highs and lows. That's one of the highs.
A lot of that's gonna come up. Like anybody listening, we'll be saying that a lot. Where I saw the Simpsons episode first, and then I saw the thing they parodied.
And it's different watching. It makes them funnier sometimes once you actually get all the references. So for you, Kang and Kodos, how do the tentacled aliens, the intergalactic Unitarians,
Quantum Presbyterians, I think they said.
Quantum Presbyterians. Oh, as an LDS guy, the line in Starship Poopers where they show up at they ring the doorbell. Homer answers the door, sees the two green aliens, and goes, "Mormons." It might just be a cultural thing, but as a Mormon, I always get a chuckle out of that.
It's good. It's good to laugh at, at a time-tested joke at your expense or the expense of your.
Oh, you gotta have humor about your belief system to varying.
It's the alternative is not pretty. So hey.
No, and the fact that they've mocked all, I wonder which religion is right. Well, it's not the Unitarians, that's for. Or the episode where Marge wants the doorbell rung, and oh look, Jehovah's Witnesses are coming up. This is they're gonna ring the doorbell, and they stop like right before they push it and go. Do you ever think that maybe we're annoying people in their homes? Wow, I'd never thought of that. Yeah, let's go do something else.
Yeah, I remember. Simpsons is. At least in the early days, is usually pretty equal opportunity when it comes to poking fun at religion. They're a little less subtle about it these days, but
well, that's because most of the writers these days come from the school of thought of Family Guy is awesome, and no. But anyway, Kang and Kodos is a funny gag. They are frequently antagonists when they're featured.
And the first appearance of James Earl Jones doing a voice in on the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, he does double duty in that Treehouse of Horror episode, the Raven and Sirach the Preparer.
He's Sirach, yeah. I slaved for hours over a hot stove to feed you people.
It's a hell of a thing if you really think about it. Like James Earl Jones is performing the voice of a slobbering alien cook in one segment of an animated show, and this was around 1991 or 92 when that was, not common. And in the next, he's reciting a classic Edgar Allan Poe poem that became, a lot of people consider that, an iconic moment that made Treehouse of Horror what it was. The guy has range, is what I'm saying.
I completely agree. For up until about 8 or 9 months ago, honestly, and this sounds weird, but up until very, very recently, that reading of The Raven from this first Simpsons Treehouse of Horror was my favorite reading of The Raven, just flat, period, full stop. And I found one that Christopher Lee did not too long before his passing, and that managed to supplant it as 1A, and now James Earl Jones and Dan Castellaneta are 1B.
And now I will be writing that down to look for later. Christopher Lee Raven.
It is the final random things that I follow. There's a podcast group, mostly some podcasts, some just radio theater, called Chilling Tales for Dark Nights, which if you're into horror stories, I recommend. They do a really good job. If you need just something to listen to, their YouTube playlist is extensive. They've been doing this for a couple of years. They have a podcast that's pretty good. It's again, radio theater with a horror bent more often than not.
I'll take a look at it.
One of their final episodes. The final segment of one of their Halloween episodes, something like that, was Christopher Lee reading of The Raven. I just sold. I'm done.
I'll check that out. I tend to consider myself like podcast poison because any podcast I start listening to, they either like stop making new episodes or they reduce their schedule drastically. I know intellectually that's not me, but it always seems like that. Like I jump on the bandwagon right when they're, slowing down. I try not to take it personally, but.
So apart from, Citizen Kang, what are some of your other favorite moments from Kang and Kodos? Because again, as far as antagonists go, they have some pretty good moments.
One of the other times that they actually invade Earth is, and I forget if it even has a title, but the Monkey's Paw episode where they, your superior intellect is no match for our puny weapons.
Run! He's got a board with a nail in it.
And that's as far as, sometimes the Simpsons are kind of effortless when it comes to satire, and sometimes they can do it without even trying, and the whole speech at the end where, we were thwarted by this board with the nail, but they won't stop there. They'll make bigger boards and bigger nails until sooner or later they'll make a board with a nail and it's so big it'll destroy them all. That's hilarious, but it's also really sad that it's kind of nails human behavior in just the simplest terms possible. And it's one of those things where you laugh to keep from crying because it's so spot on that you don't want to think about it too much.
That's true. You really don't want to. No, yeah, I completely agree. By the way, humans, you're just going to keep going until you can actually wipe yourselves out, by the way. I always get a kick out of that as I think it's Kang who's running away. Or no, it's Kodos because Kang's the one who actually has the scepter and sash. As he's running away saying, he's got a board with a nail in it, Mo comes running right behind him because it's always Mo is wielding those kind of things.
You're always Mo.
And it's usually Mo. That has to be a hashtag that needs to get started. You always Mo. But as he's running after him, he says, and I don't know which of them voices Mo, but just in a pitch perfect kind of just like angry, pseudo impotent, like just found my power kind of way. Enslave humanity, will ya?
Good times. Trying to think. Starship Poopers was kind of a low point. It wasn't a bad episode. It wasn't a bad short. It's just and it had its moments in the grand scheme of things. As far as like Kang and Kodos episodes, it wasn't the best. My favorite part of that was just one of them. Like, and I believe it was Kang because that's the one that knocked up Marge. That he just starts mowing down the Jerry Springer audience with the disintegrator beam. Just the look on his face, like the gleeful, look on his face as he's doing it, and then everybody is just completely vaporized.
Hang on, Kang. You can't intimidate my audience with your fancy ray gun. Followed by him just vaporizing the entire crowd. Now for my final thought. I agree as far as the episode goes. It's not great. It feels like that whole short was a setup for the Jerry Springer segment. But at least the Jerry Springer segment is funny.
Somebody needs to learn your great ass some manners.
As someone who was forced to watch Jerry Springer in the break room when I was working at Kmart, which is not a fate I wish. Working at Kmart is not a fate I wish on many people. But I've never subscribed to the theory of I wouldn't wish X on my worst enemy. That just means you don't understand the concept of a worst enemy because you want bad things to happen.
Fair enough.
But it nailed not just the audience segments, but there's that one cutaway right after that little bit where Homer's just kind of nodding and clapping. And again, as someone who had been forced to watch Jerry Springer more than once, no, I've seen that entirely too often. Someone makes a point that someone on stage agrees with, and they do exactly that.
That self-satisfied like nod of somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody's on my side, and of course it's Homer.
Of course. The other, since it's Kang and Kodos, the other one of theirs that I found somewhat interesting. Well, they appear at the end of The Day the Earth Looked Stupid, which is a parody of the H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds issue. And after he parodies the Earth being invaded, and now, in a homage to The Boy Who Cried Wolf, no one will believe him once Kang and Kodos actually do invade.
And see, I don't think I've seen that one actually. That's that's got to be a later one then.
It's from 17. It's along with Married to the Blob and You Gotta Know When to Golem. So it's a weaker entry.
I know When to Golem. I know that one, but it's been a while, unfortunately. I stuck with a lot of the classics. I tried to venture out into the later ones. But I'll take your word for it. And I'll probably watch it. I'll probably check it out in a little while when I'm done here.
But the other time I think they feature prominently was in E.T. Go Home, where one of them crashes and is befriended by Bart in a sick parody of E.T. and he wants to invade the Earth, and he sort of succeeds in getting and opening the portal to his dimension, but the military is waiting for them and just mows them down as they're coming in through that choke point.
Yeah, that one I do remember. It was it started out as a pretty good parody of E.T. I'm not sure if it ended as promisingly as it started, but
no, it didn't. And I actually haven't seen the other one that I know they're featured in, which is 22. Their parody of Avatar.
Oh, that one. Yeah, no, I heard that one was got off. I know the only other one that I've seen was that it's not a Halloween episode. Did I think last year or the year before, where it's actually in real Simpsons continuity, if Simpsons has any kind of continuity at all.
The one where they show up at his roast?
No, that one was kind of out of it too. There's an actual episode called "The Man Who Came to Be Dinner," about maybe last season or the season before that, where it's not a Halloween episode and it's not a dream and it's not anything. They literally abduct the Simpsons, and I haven't seen all of it. I've heard reviews of it, and once again, worst episode ever, did an episode about it. That's the extent of my knowledge of it. I heard it's not great, which is unfortunate because one of my favorite writers of the show wrote it. So that's kind of a bummer.
I'll have to look that one up now, because Kang and Kodos, again, they're always good for a laugh to one degree or another.
I like how one of them is definitely female, but like we're never entirely sure. Well, it's supposed to be Kodos. This is my sister Kodos. Times I'm told in one of the Simpsons games, it's one of the Simpsons video games, it's actually confirmed that Kodos is female.
Oh. Yeah, there's Kang and Kodos are always great. All right. There's two that I feel kind of go hand in hand that I want to talk about, because I remember this one's on your list. The 50-foot eyesore.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
There's one that deals within that, kind of in that same realm, that, like so many Simpsons episodes, has bits that are, so many later Simpsons episodes, especially in the Treehouse, where has bits that are very good and then just kind of falls off a cliff. They don't know how to end it. In this case, How to Get Ahead in Deadvertising, where advertising agents hire Homer to kill celebrities so they can use their likeness without paying them royalties.
I remember that episode, but I very specifically, I don't remember everything about that episode. I remember Chief Wiggum and Edward G. Robinson actually having a gunfight. That's the main thing I remember about that, because it was like, it's the most obvious joke you can make, but it's like it's one of those things where I'd also be upset if they didn't do it.
There's nothing wrong with going obvious. So anyway, the 50-foot eyesores from the short entitled Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores. It's a play on various B-class, B-style horror movies where a meteor passes through and then strange things happen. In this case, giant, advertising agents, not agencies, giant advertising props and whatnot come to life and start laying waste to things. So what is it about both them and that episode? What are some of your highlights from that? What what do you want to talk about when it pertains to them?
Well, it's probably the finest moment for Lard Lad, first of all. Homer's complete overreaction to getting a donut smaller than he expected is, as the whole starting point of that is great.
I paid for a colossal donut, and I will have a colossal donut.
And the thing is, it's like they're not just content to have him steal it, because obviously, Homer stealing a gigantic metal donut begs the question of what the hell is he going to do with it when he gets it. And then they show what he does with it, and he's just laying it in his living room. I acquired it legally.
I don't know, but you can be sure I acquired it legally. And the first time the Lard Lad's boy comes looking for his donut, oh, I know what you're thinking, but it wasn't me. It was Flanders. He's got it. The next thing you hear is it trashing Flanders' house, and Flanders, help me, Lord, and then it comes back. I told you, Flanders has it. Oh, how about Mo? Yeah, go kill Mo.
In between that is probably my favorite line in the whole thing, which is, he came to life. Good for him.
Such a blasé response.
There's a lot of that in some of these. In a lot of the Halloween episodes, some of the humor in the Halloween episodes are just sometimes these horrible or fantastical things that happen and people's complete non-reactions to them. And I'm sure we'll get into the evil talking crusty doll in just a minute, but
because I love the evil talking crusty so
I have
much.
some things to say about that real quick, but a couple more things that the 50-foot eyesores. I know because sometimes I've gotten to the point where I've watched some of these episodes so many times. I've got some of the commentaries memorized, even like that's how much I watch some of these. So I know they had to kind of walk around a few of the copyright issues with some of the ad icons, some of the advertising mascots that they were showing, attacking and killing people. So if you notice, Mr. Peanut is not actually wearing a top hat and a monocle. He's wearing I think like a college mortarboard and some glasses, and it's just they changed him just enough to not get sued, but it's obviously Mr. Peanut, and he cracks open a car like a peanut and eats the people inside, stuff like that. The
in the same vein of blasé responses, the Pip Boys.
Yeah,
they come to life. Because I think they have the old Jewish guy who is actually running the store when they walk off, and they're if you've never seen a Pep Boys advertising piece, their heads are huge, way disproportionate to their body. So when they come to life, they flop over immediately, and as they're walking off, the old Jewish guy comes out and goes, "Hey, where you going? Don't scratch up them heads."
Great visual, and I think probably everybody's favorite takeaway from this episode, from this short, is the Paul Anka song, which is one of the biggest earworms you will ever hear, and something I frequently. This is my mantra for bad social media, and it should be everybody's mantra for bad social media. Just don't look. Just don't look. It works for everything.
Yeah, I need to find that song now so I can upload it and interrupt it. For those of you who don't know, I do a movie review podcast with Mark Radlich called Damn You Hollywood. And on occasion, I have lamented there's a famous scene from the show The Critic, done by the same guys who do The Simpsons, where he says, if the movie's bad, just don't watch it. And rather than upload that thing, I think from now on I'm just going to find a copy of that song, and just anytime I'm just put out by a film, I'm just going to play that one. Just don't look. Yeah. I think my other favorite gag from that particular episode is Bart Simpson being the devil on the devil's shoulder, which it's an obvious gag, but
that's also, if you really think about it, that is a gigantic three-dimensional advertising mascot. Like where would that actually be positioned?
I don't know. I can only imagine that Springfield is closer to Vegas than anyone realized.
Where I forget Homer's line at the beginning where was like where value wears a neon sombrero and there's not a school or church to offend the eye within 300 miles, or something wacky like that.
Something wacky like that, yeah.
Neon
All right,
sombrero is all neon sombrero is also going to be the name of my mariachi band, so just keep an eye out for that.
Give me your booking information.
Nice. We'll talk later.
I do want to bring up the Talking Krusty Doll because, honestly, that 3-set, which is number 3, Clown Without Pity, King Homer, which has one of my favorite. That whole 3-set, this is the other one that, along with 5, if you want to argue about what's the best 3-set, I stick up for number 3 very frequently because it's got so many great lines. Probably my favorite comes from Grandpa Simpson, though, between stories. As they're trying to set up for the second one, and Homer is butchering, trying to tell a scary story, Grandpa Simpson delivers 2 great lines. The first is, Homer, I've coughed up scarier stuff than that, which I believe. And then afterwards, Bart immediately goes, well, how about you tell us a story, Grandpa? You've led an interesting life. That's a damn lie, and you know it. But I have seen a lot of movies.
I think everybody knows an old guy that that's very grandpa-esque that would probably say the same thing. It's like, you've led an interesting life. No, I haven't.
But I have absorbed a tremendous amount of fiction over the years.
Mm-hmm.
No, the Talking Krusty Doll, I get such a kick out of that whole episode because the first time it tries to kill Homer and everyone looks in and Bart's response to Homer's blabbering is, I'd say the pressure's gotten to Dad, but what pressure?
I actually like that he actually voluntarily pulls the string.
That's true. He's like, need you to pull the string. You think your sweaty socks can stop me? I am getting pretty dizzy.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there is an actual Talking Krusty Doll that has a switch on his back for good and evil.
Of course there is.
But here's the thing about that. Like, I was prepared to buy that, like, seriously, when I found out about it, probably last Halloween. But then I saw a review of it and they kind of screwed it up, I guess, because they didn't want a doll, they didn't want an actual Talking Krusty doll that was actually able to say, I'm Krusty the Clown and I'm going to kill you. So they didn't have that. He doesn't say that.
Well,
he doesn't say.
The point?
He doesn't. I think he says some other like semi-mean-spirited quotes from the show. It's kind of half-assed. Like, there's not a whole lot of difference between because the idea is he's supposed to say different things when you flip the switch from good to evil. But they're not all that much different from each other when you flip the switch one way or the other. It's just random. It's just a couple of random Krusty quotes. I mean, the doll is cool looking, but they kind of missed the boat on that. I actually tend to wonder if the sound chip is reprogrammable or if you can like kind of throw your own in there, something like that. That'd be pretty cool.
I would hope so. That one also is. That episode also, and I know it's not strict continuity because the Treehouse of Horror episodes aren't, but when the doll attacks Homer in the bathtub and he flees screaming, and Patty's response to his streaking through the kitchen is just, well, there go the last lingering threads of my heterosexuality.
And years later they paid that off. Yeah, it's kind of
with making her actually gay.
Yeah, I call that unintentional continuity, I guess. It's one of those things where it's like, where if you ask them, they'd be like, yeah, we totally meant to do that.
Yeah, not even the bottomless pit wanting the nude photos of Whoopi Goldberg.
What the? that was
one of my favorite lines. That whole short I love, but as Krusty finally, tries to kill Homer while other people are watching, and Homer's rolling around on the ground. He goes, Marge, the doll's trying to kill me, and the toaster's been laughing at me.
Yeah.
Followed by dog water.
Which I think I've said that before to somebody, just to see if they were paying attention. The toaster's
laughing at me.
Add that at the end of any random sentence that you're saying to somebody who may or may not be listening to you, and you will find out whether or not they were listening.
That's very true, and it's one of those things that, since now the doll is trying to kill him. Oh, and again, in the blasé response category, she calls 1-800-DON'T-SUE, to the hotline for all of Krusty's products. Your doll's trying to kill my husband. Yes, I'll hold.
Everybody loves the clown, so why don't you?
Oh, that old music is great. All right.
Do have good old music at times.
It does help. It really does. Of course, Homer's personally, you're not putting me on hold. I'm putting you on hold. Lisa, your questions are important and will be answered as soon as the next available attendant comes along, followed by him singing MacArthur Park.
They get a lot of play out of MacArthur Park in that show, too, I noticed.
Which is odd because it's such a weird song.
It is. I think it's also like one of the most covered songs of all time for some reason.
Well, any number of genres and styles can be made to fit it, I suppose, so it's probably good that way.
Sure.
I imagine that Robert Cooper is now going to message me with all the various metal covers of it, because there's some death metal band out there that has to just go on about the rich green frosting running down.
Well, this is my philosophy. I've always said, and it's relevant to this show, because I always say there's a Simpsons quote for everything. I also maintain that if there's not a Simpsons quote for something, there's probably a Beatles song for it. And I can add to that, if there's not a Beatles song for it, there's probably a metal song for it.
That's very true.
All right. Most of the time, there's a Simpsons quote for everything.
I've never been let down
Nope.
to this point. I imagine, I might eventually come across a circumstance where I can't find one, but in that case, I'm just going to assume it's one I haven't heard yet. All right. One of the things we have to talk about as it pertains to this, because, look, Mr. Burns is great, right? I mean, we can all agree on this. He is great.
One of my favorite characters.
Value. Mark and I spent a lot of time talking about him because he is like, he actually has a line in Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 2 where he says, "I was free to revel in my own crapulence." Like, he says that about himself.
We all looked that up. We all looked that up too, and it's accurate. The use of the word is perfectly accurate in that situation. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's not. It's not a made-up word. It's actually a word that existed prior to that and was used correctly. So he's been featured in several episodes of the Treehouse of Horror. So where do you want to start with this one? Because I know, again, on your list you have his turn as Dracula, which is another great.
I know
great one.
I know you mentioned his turn in the Harry Potter parody. It's called Whiz Kids. I think it's from Treehouse of Horror 12 or 13, something like that.
We'll find out. It is 12.
Yeah, Lord Monty-Moore. The only thing first of all, Smithers as Slithers steals that whole episode because the design is just so hilarious, and he's still wearing the bow tie. He's still wearing the bow tie, and then he completely devours Burns after he dies, which is also really grotesque looking, but still funny. The only thing I have to add is I found out, and you look back on that short, and it's a little bit more obvious, especially if you're a Harry Potter fan. Apparently, the people involved in making that short either hadn't read anything related to Harry Potter or knew very little about the books or I'm not sure if even the movies had come out by that point, and if they did, there weren't that many of them out.
That episode aired in 2001.
So that was the year the first movie came out, wasn't it?
Yeah. We're dealing with at most two movies at that point. I believe there is only the one.
Yeah. So I don't think they had read the books. They had I think they probably had some very extremely basic knowledge. I think, I don't know who mandated, you guys make a Harry Potter parody and do it now. It worked out. It ended up being funny. It just wasn't. It was a funny Simpsons short. It was a funny Treehouse of Horror short. It just wasn't a very good Harry Potter parody.
I get two kicks out of that episode. Well, no, I get a couple. One is Bart's frog prince. Every moment I live is agony. And Mrs. Krabappel's blasé response. Bart, Lisa's casting spells at a 10th grade level, and you've sinned against nature.
That works.
Bart's spell about, prank be undone, destroy the evil one, leading to him being struck by lightning rather than Burns.
I gotta, I don't know, most Simpsons fans are probably familiar with Frankie Yak at this point and know that Frankie Yak actually makes GIFs now, or GIFs. If there's any, I know that I have at least one friend that may or may not be listening that will absolutely, punch me in the face if I pronounce that a certain way and I don't remember which way she prefers. So I'm saying both just to cover my bases, but Frankie Yak does animated memes. I'll just put it that way. And I got to make one at some point of Head Zeppelin because that's a great animation.
Head Zeppelin is great. And then, my enchanted shin. How did you know?
Sure.
So, I laugh because it's so obviously okay, we need to write ourselves out of this.
Yeah. You want to end this episode or not?
And lack of knowledge of source material. He's got an enchanted shin.
Okay.
The other one that I really like when it comes to Burns, and I forget the name of the episode, which is weird because I should remember it. It's the one where Homer gets fired, winds up as a gravedigger, and Burns takes his brain and sticks it into the machine's body.
I'm actually pretty sure because that's Treehouse of Horror 2, and I'm pretty sure that that none of the shorts had titles in that episode.
It's either just Homer's Nightmare or
because each one of them.
There it is. Yeah, it's because they're called
Homer's
Lisa's Nightmare, Bart's Nightmare, Homer's Nightmare. They are subtitled. In Lisa's case, it's the Monkey's Paw. Bart's is the Bard Zone, and Homer's is If I Only Had a Brain. Okay, there we go.
Okay, I stand corrected. But
behold the greatest relation between labor and the greatest tool in labor management relations since the cat o' nine tails, which always makes me laugh because Burns is old enough that he was probably around when that was first introduced as, and we need to make these guys work faster. Hey, check this out.
Yeah, I love that. One of my favorite parts of that episode is, and I have the words in front of me because if not, I will screw this up completely. But it's the semi-Wizard of Oz quote that he gives before he kicks the robot, and it's what you clinking, clanking, clattering collection of collisionist cogs and camshafts. Which I knew I had heard that from somewhere the first time, the first few times I saw it, and then I realized, I'm like, for some reason they're doing a Wizard of Oz quote here, but it worked because it's Burns, and hearing Burns say, sometimes it's just funny to hear Burns say weird stuff. Sometimes, Harry Shearer just does that voice in such a way that, sometimes things he says in the Burns voice is funny without you even really understanding why. That's also where, wallow in my own crapulence can probably fall into that category too.
The fact that right after that, it starts tipping over, run Mr. Burns, and he shuffles because he can't run, but that one moment also is one of my big. I hate the cinematic trope of, oh crap, this long but narrow thing is falling towards me. I'm going to run lengthwise.
There's a scene in the latest season of Game of Thrones that would drive you up a wall if you haven't seen it yet. That follows a similar path of annoyance.
The most egregious one, to my recent recollection, actually is Prometheus, which I like as a movie. I genuinely enjoy Prometheus. Idris Elba's Texas accent notwithstanding. But then at the end, when the ship is rolling towards them and they're running with it, parallel to it, move to the side.
90 degrees. 90 degrees and you're fine.
I mean, come on. Turn. Just turn. You can turn left or right, it's moderately amusing. If you get a NASCAR driver and he can't turn left to get away from it, then okay, I appreciate the humor. But come on, you don't even go the full 90, go 80, and suddenly all is well with the world.
Yeah, I feel like that's I can't single anything in particular out, but I feel like I've seen that before a bunch of times.
Oh, it's all over the place. But after he gets crushed, bone shattered, organs leaking vital fluids, slight headache. Smithers, I'm going to die.
There was I know there was a Treehouse of Horror episode that was similar. Actually, was it the Fantastic Voyage parody where they go inside Burns and then like Homer doesn't escape in time? There's another episode where
behind. Yeah, he
there's
stays
another
behind
episode.
and then expands, and he and
Yeah.
Burns wind up sharing a body again.
Yeah, I knew I had seen that. Yeah, that's the one, right?
Yeah, their parody of Fantastic Voyage.
It's creepier in that one, but you know,
Burns
Simpsons
needs
did it.
several new holes.
Yeah. I like the fact that, you know, in the original one where you know, Homer's he finds himself, you know, his head grafted to, or Burns' his head grafted to his body, and he's trying to wake himself up. It's just a dream. It's just a dream. Yes, it's just a dream. Or is it? And then they continue to, like, you know, a mundane, like, scene later on.
Next week on The Simpsons.
Which is the best punchline to that joke, where it just keeps going past the point where you think it would. That doesn't always work. And
Don't
sometimes
forget my recitals this Sunday, Dad. Oh, but Homer, we have to meet with the Prime Minister of... Oh, I hate having two heads.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes you stretch a joke too far out and you go into Family Guy territory, and that gets old real fast. The idea is that something becomes fun, a joke goes on long enough and it stops becoming funny, and then it goes on even longer and it becomes funny again. People tend to be under the impression that works every time, and it doesn't. It works very sparingly when you use it very sparingly. This was kind of just like that sweet spot where like it went on just long enough to be really funny and really, like, you know, head turning, and then it stopped, and it left you like, what the hell did I just watch?
And the one you mentioned that you really wanted to talk about, Burns is Dracula. And visually, he is old Dracula, as played by Gary Oldman from Bram Stoker's Dracula. So,
Once again, I saw this Treehouse of Horror episode first, and then I saw Bram Stoker's Dracula, and that made it much harder to take Gary Oldman seriously in that movie. I found wasn't his fault. He did it, you know. That was kind of the story of that movie anyway. He did it. He did his best. He was great. He would have been. I wish he had a much better, much more focused movie to play Dracula in, but you know, he did what he could.
Yeah, if only he'd had a better adaptation.
Yeah. But you know, the parts with the shadows making like autonomous shadow puppets on the wall and just doing a yo. That's not too far off from how it was in the movie, where his shadow's doing all kinds of weird distracting things in the background sometimes.
The super happy fun slide.
That's where the just for Homer's the animation of Homer like waving his arms around is just, you know, that's so adorable, and it's
I really shouldn't. But when am I going to be here again?
Later on, super fun happy slide. No, Dad. Oh, I guess killing him will be fun enough.
Well, if it isn't little boy. Dad, this is blood. Correction. Free blood.
No, where they decide to, and they also take the opportunity to parody the Lost Boys, like somewhere in there with
Bart being outside the window.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite. Like my all-time favorite Simpson Treehouse of Horror gag comes from that episode. Lisa, Bart, don't bite your sister's neck. Yeah, hey, you are a vampire. Quick! Grandpa Simpson comes in with a mallet and a stake. Quick! We have to kill the boy! Marge pokes her head in. How do you know he's a vampire? Grandpa Simpson's response, he's a vampire!
That's, this is where I get, animation geeky. That's, that was Treehouse of Horror 4, and I think David Silverman directed all of those episodes, all of the shorts in that episode. And I'm a big fan of David Silverman, like personally, like as an artist. He directed the Simpsons movie, first of all. I don't know if you're particularly fond of the Simpsons movie. Personally, I think that's the last really, really great Simpsons story that's ever been made. That movie actually kind of reminded me of why I'm a Simpsons fan. Wasn't perfect. It had issues, but The animation was on point, and it led me to kind of go back and look at previous episodes of the show that David Silverman had done, and his claim to fame is actually like really kinetic, like wacky, over the top gestury animation, which you see in the Dracula episode. Well, some of it is like really over the top, and some of it is really fluid, like Bart like transforming into the bat. That's awesome. Like even just from a pure animated, it's kind of creepy, just the way that happens. Silverman also directed The Shining, so if that doesn't prove my point, I don't know what will. But also, all the parts after that where they're closing in on Burns, and also lest we forget, if we're doing quotes here, we can't forget, kill my boss. Do I dare live out the American dream?
Die, you evil monster! Gah, gah. And that's his crotch.
That's his crotch. Which was a joke, which was a gag that was so good they used it in the promo for that episode that year.
It's such
you
a
have
great
to drive
gag.
the stake in. Yeah, that's what I remember. And then
Burns
the
coming
extra
back after he dusts, he recorporealizes just long enough to look at Homer and go, "You're fired."
That's brilliant. Yeah, Burns has a few turns as a villain in these Treehouse of Horror episodes. They don't over. Given that he's pretty much the main villain of the entire series, they don't overdo him as much as you might think, because he's got a few really good episodes, a few ones that are relatively forgettable, but the best ones are like some of the best ones, the best Treehouse of Horror shorts they've ever done. Like this is like the Dracula episode is up there as far as one of my favorites, and it actually became even more so after I actually saw the movie, which was welcome, which was a welcome surprise. I think that was during a certain period of time when that was Simpson's golden age. But I know they had a mandate they had a standing in at that time for the Treehouse of Horror episodes, and that was that the Treehouse of Horror episodes, of course, have to be funny, but they also have to still work as horror. They also still have to be at least kind of scary. So they were really good at that during that time. That's when you get stuff like the Shining, which was ridiculous and over the top and wacky, but it also had its moments where it was like it zeroed in on what made The Shining scary, and during some of those times it was kind of creepy, like Marge finding the typewriter and the lightning hitting and all the
Feeling fine,
and then
boom,
that's funny, and then suddenly like all of this stuff behind, like all the stuff written behind her. That's
this is less encouraging. And then his entrance, Homer's entrance into that scene, he slams open the door and goes, "Hello." What do you think, Mo? All I need's a title. Thinking something along the lines of "No TV and no beer make Homer something."
Go crazy.
Don't mind if I do. And she actually gets the bat from the break in case of spousal insanity. And as he's coming up the stairs, with his "gimme the bat" bit. Oh, scaredy cat. Oh, here's a scary face. Bleh. Turns, sees himself in the mirror, and then falls down. He actually scares himself so much that he falls down.
And here's kind of the genius thing they did with that scene. I don't know if you know this, like in The Shining, I think that supposedly has the Guinness World Record for the most number of takes in a single film ever done for a single scene. Stanley Kubrick purposely, like, practically tortured the hell out of Shelley Duvall to get the kind of reaction out of her that she got in that scene, where she looks like she's freaking out. She's not acting in that scene.
She's just so sick of Kubrick.
Which apparently he did that a lot with his actor. He did something similar with George C. Scott in like Dr. Strangelove, but that's a whole other thing. But as a contrast, because you got to make it fun. You got to make it funny again. Marge is really like just kind of like pretty blasé about the whole thing, and very straightforwardly picks up Homer like he weighs nothing and just dumps him in the fridge and just says, you stay here till you're no longer insane. And chili would be good tonight. She takes the chili and walks out.
Oh, and then the setup, the payoff to that is you left Homer in there with all this food. So when the ghouls come, and in the movie, in The Shining, it's a really interesting scene where Jack Nicholson essentially talks to himself about, let me out, give me one more chance. I need, I can do this. I can kill my family. I can, live up to my expectations and my obligations. And in the Shining, he's sitting there eating, and Moe comes along and, hey, Homer, some of the other ghouls and I are not happy about how this is going. Can't murder now. Eating.
Oh, crying out loud. They
That's
kick
the first
door
appearance
in
of
and just...
Pinhead, too, in The Simpsons. Because they have all those classic horror monsters that come in and drag him out to send him off on his murderous rampage. And I think both Pinhead and Freddy Krueger are in it.
Yeah, I think this Wolfman is in it. I'd love to know... I know at some point, because this was back when they did, when they did the show on Cell, on Plastic Cell, it would, I guess, from time to time, Fox would sell them and would sell them to employees and would sell them to, like, some of the Simpsons staff and would also sell a select few to the public. I wonder if anybody's got a cell of that. That would be really cool. Like, just all of the ghouls dragging Homer out of the fridge.
He's like, no, don't take me away from the food.
I always love that single shot. But, yeah, and the whole play, and I guess we're full on talking about the Shining now, aren't we?
Sure.
We're pretty much reciting most of the episode anyway, so yeah, this is your Shining discussion. Widely considered one of the, probably the number one, or I've seen occasionally number two greatest Treehouse of Horror short of all time. And I probably won't argue with that too much. But basically, like everywhere that the movie zigs, the parody kind of zags. Parts that are supposed to be, that are scary in the movie are funny in the parody and vice versa. If you kind of think about it, where the part where Homer's crashing through the door and it does the three,
here's Johnny.
And the room's empty.
David Letterman. Hi, David. I'm Grandpa.
Grandpa. I'm Mike Wallace. I'm Morley Safer, and I'm Ed Bradley. All this and Andy Rooney tonight on 60 Minutes. And he's actually in the room, and they go running away.
Urge to Kill, fading,
which
Rising?
I still use.
Oh, that always gets play. That is one of the most enduring Treehouse of Horror bits ever. Is Urge to Kill, rising or fading.
Actually, Sean Comer, because I know you're either listening to this now or you will at some point in the future. I've used that on him before. Anytime that it's snowing up here in New York, and he decides he wants to be, he wants to be cute and post, the temperature from his native Arizona. That's what I always post in reply is Homer frozen. To Kill Rising.
Yeah, that's a good one. You wanted to talk about, and we need to talk about this one because you and I are both fans of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So their parody thereof, the Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace, where groundskeeper Willie takes the role of Freddy Krueger. Between that and The Shining, I think you have the best examples of appropriate parody ever committed to screen. It's glorious.
I'd be hard pressed to think of a better Nightmare on Elm Street parody than that. Like there was some affection in that. There was some surprising affection in that because depending on who you talk to, Nightmare on Elm Street is revered in some horror circle and kind of looked down upon in others. And others a little bit more snobbish than we may be. But, there was some actual love that went into that parody because it was spot on. Like, the dream sequences were appropriately, weird and, kind of differently colored and far out, and the deaths were really funny. Martin
You mastered a dead tongue. Let's see how you handle a live one.
Martin getting crushed by Willie's long prehensile tongue.
And then no one reacting to it, which that's what kills me about that because they're playing on an episode on one of the kills from the Dream Master, where one of the victims is killed in the middle of class. It's very quick in the film, especially for a Freddy Krueger kill. Here, Martin goes through this long, drawn-out, suffocating gesticulation, and everybody just kind of watches him.
And then Nelson laughs at him.
He's dead. I said, ha ha.
Just get him out of here. No, not to the kindergarten.
He got his floor buff. He got me with his floor buffer.
And the undercover man, and it's funny what people take away from some of these episodes, because I swear to God, like the concept of Smarch got more play out of this episode than anything else in it. Like every year at around like late winter, early spring, you'll hear lousy Smarch weather. Somebody say
Do not
lousy
touch
Smarch
Willie. Good advice.
Good advice. But yeah, it was also the undercover funny, one of the funniest parts of this was Marge, who Marge is a great character in The Simpsons, but you never expect her to be outright funny, and then when it is, it's always a pleasant surprise, and she ends up stealing a vast part of that episode. So it's a tale of murder and revenge from beyond the grave, and the kids' response to that, they kind of perk up and smile like it's gonna get good. It was the
13th hour of the 13th month of the 13th year.
Day of the 13th, something like that. The 13th day of the 13th month. We were meeting in the school to complain about the misprinted calendar.
Which is where the Smarch weather joke comes from. But yeah, Marge getting laughs is always good.
Smarch has 29 days, by the way. That's interesting to know. I don't know why, but Smarch has 29 days. I gotta remember to quote that next time. Next year. Smarch weather.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's also a really first of all, brilliant that the cause of all of the cause of Willie dying and becoming Freddy Krueger is of course Homer, who unknowingly sets him on fire, and then like the final shot of like skeleton Willie is kind of horrifying.
It is. That's a really scary bit when he's sitting there saying, "I'll strike back at your children." It's
how do you
first
that?
We'd like to. I'll get them in their dreams, and then he sweeps himself up after he disintegrates. But my other favorite thing about that one is after he's lit on fire. All right, first order of business. Money for new doorknobs. Nay. Doorknob doesn't work to get out there. Next up, new fire extinguishers. Just a reminder, this is a free service provided by the fire department. Nay. Poor Willie. And then at the end, I mean, when we talk about this as parody, the dreamscapes are great. Willie nails elements of Freddy Krueger. The wisecracks, and in some cases, the over-reliance on them. Which adequately parodies, the direction the Freddy Krueger character went, and it's some of the later entries into the franchise. For a full discussion on that, see the Long Road to Ruin episodes talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And then at the end, when he gets off the bus and wants to, boo! Oh no, wait! I left my gun on the seat. And then he takes off after the bus, and his shoe falls off, and it's this perfect arc, even within just the short of the arc that Freddy Krueger as a character took from, intimidating and scary and murderous to wisecracky to borderline impotent and running after a bus with one shoe on.
Man.
It's inspired. That needs to be studied by anyone who wants to write parody, because there is no finer example.
I guess that ended the only way it could have, but it's a more clever way of writing out ending the episode than than the Harry Potter parody, so that works.
Yeah. All right. We've been dancing around it. We need to talk about it here because I think we've covered everything else on your list.
We got a little bit of time left.
We can take, I think, another half. I could add more time. Screw it. I'm going to add more.
Sure thing. I think we're rounding out. I only have like a couple, a few honorable mentions anyway that I won't get too into. There's I got
all right.
three honorable mentions.
The last one we need to talk about before we get into honorable mentions and then number one. You brought up one of my favorite, mostly because I've seen mostly because this joke has been played off in so many different arenas, and one that I actually do want to talk about. Terror at 5.5 feet.
Yeah.
Which is a parody of a famous episode of the Twilight Zone, wherein William Shatner sees a gremlin on the side of an airplane, and no one else can see it, no one believes him. Bart sees a gremlin on the side of the bus, and my favorite payoff to that whole... This is where the famous "there's something on the wing." There's something out on the wing. That's where that comes from, is that episode. In the Twilight Zone movie, when they did that same story, they did it with John Lithgow instead of William Shatner. And much as I love Terror at 5.5 feet for a variety of reasons, there's an episode of Third Rock from the Sun, which is a sitcom starring primarily John Lithgow. It aired primarily during the early to mid-'90s. There's an episode of that show where William Shatner shows up, and he arrives in their little town via airplane. And the first time he meets with John Lithgow, he says, "There was something on the wing, but no one would believe me." And John Lithgow's response is, "I know, that happened to me too."
Write that down to look up later.
Yeah. It's funny when you read it. It's funnier when you get Shatner and Lithgow, especially Lithgow as that character, because he got to be so over the top. So Terror at 5.5 feet. What are your favorite moments from that one? What about that particular episode and that particular short kind of speaks to you?
First of all, Otto running the actual gremlin off the side of the road.
Oh man, there's a gremlin on the side of the bus. Oh, no problemo, Bart, dude. Oh no.
And yeah, of course, since it's Han's moment, he has to die, and he has to die in the most ridiculous way possible. So he runs off the road. He's okay, and then the car explodes.
He taps that tree, just taps it. Boom.
Skinner, who is not played as much as he could be in a lot of these Treehouse episodes, but I'm riding the bus because Mother hid my car keys to punish me for talking to a woman on the phone. She was right to do it.
Oh. Look at all the stuff I found down in the marina. She's sitting in some guy's boat.
And one other Skinner quote that I use because in my day job, I work around kids a lot. So sometimes I'll use Skinner's line of, I've heard a child has been using his imagination, and I've come to put a stop to it.
Willie has a great couple of lines in that episode as well. Something his mule wouldn't do.
Wouldn't pull in the mud, so I had to put 17 bullets in him.
17 bullets in him. Then when Bart tries to get rid of the gremlin and he's throwing the flares out the window and he's hanging out of it, and Skinner and Willie are holding onto his legs trying to pull him back in. Pull, Willie, pull. I'm doing all the pulling, you. Oh, what is it? Because it's a great...
Blouse-wearing poodle walker.
Blouse-wearing poodle walker.
Yeah.
Willie's insults at Skinner, while somewhat few and far between, are always gold.
Yeah. There's what was... My favorite one was your back taking underpants wearing...
Oh, yes, Willie, I see you got the news. I trust you got the news about your salary cut. Hey, there'll be many a cut this year. Yes, there will. Budgetary-wise, of course.
Yeah, Willie's Skinner is great.
The other one, there's a great bit of double... There's one episode, and I forget the episode's title, but it's where they all get snowed in over Christmas.
Skinner's Sense of Snow.
That's it. Which is a great episode. It has some great, double entendres in it. One of them, my favorite one, Willie, collapse that tunnel. He did do a bunny job, sir. I see you Scotsmen are thrifty with courage as well. All right, Skinner. That's the last time you'll slap your Willie around. I quit.
Which is, luckily they don't know. Luckily they don't overdo the Willie joke as much as they could, because the last one that was similar to that was "Do not touch Willie." So. It
Of course, that
works.
one also features, good job, Nibbles. Now chew through my ball sack.
Not as good, but still memorable, I guess.
Well, it's a lot less subtle. And also because Skinner is at that point in time currently encased in an empty dodgeball bag.
Right.
Skinner, I trust there's a good explanation for this. Yes, sir, there is. Well, then I'm satisfied. It's
Super
Homer's.
Nintendo channel. Yeah.
Oh, we hit something. I hope it's Flanders. I'm all for saving the kids, Homer, but did you have to cut off my roof? Oh, my car, your roof. But it's my car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that plow company you had? What? I never had a plow. Yes, you did. Mr. Plow. You're wearing the jacket right now. I think I know my own life, Ned.
Call
Mr. Plow. That's the name.
Good stuff.
Oh, that's a great one.
I guess, and speaking of Flanders, who ends the Terror at 3.5 Feet episode with, being decapitated by the Kremlin, which was a really dark turn.
That's a really dark short, all things considered.
They kind of took it an extra step because I know the Twilight Zone episode. If I'm not mistaken, the Twilight Zone episode end with the Gremlin on the ambulance too.
I'd have to double check.
But I know he didn't. I know he didn't hold. He wasn't holding somebody's disembodied head. So, yeah.
Apparently not. It's not. It doesn't appear on the ambulance. He is locked away in an asylum, and he tells his wife that he's alone.
Right.
But no. The end to the short is much darker than the end to the Treehouse of Horror. Than the end to the Twilight Zone episode. Yeah, all of those are kind of dark. From that, because that series contains The Devil and Homer Simpson, which we're going to talk about next at length, Terror at 5.5 Feet, and Bart Simpson's Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And Bart Simpson's Dracula ends on a pretty dark note. You have to kill the head vampire. No, I'm the head vampire. Mom? I do have a life outside this house, you know.
Well, like I said, that was during the time when they legitimately tried to make the Halloween episode scary. And more often than not, kind of
those episodes. Because, again, The Devil and Homer Simpson, which I think is the best. Just, if we talk about, how do you categorize them, I don't think it gets better than The Devil and Homer Simpson. In fact, the bit of art that you see if you're watching this on Blog Talk or anything that will, bring up the icon that I selected for this, is a sketch that you did from that episode. It's Ned Flanders as he first appears in Homer Simpson's cubicle. I mean, this short is basically perfection.
And I still maintain, as much as I love the shinning, Flanders as the devil is a stroke of comedic genius.
I'd sell my soul for a donut. That can be arranged. Flanders? You're the devil?
It's always the way you least suspect. So that's great.
That whole episode has a couple of great gags. One of them, believe it or not, Homer insulting himself incidentally because he wants a donut and they're out of donuts, hence leading to him wanting to sell his soul. He goes for his emergency donut, which is in his safety manual. He's hollowed it out to store donut. Opens it up and there's a note. Dear Homer, I owe you one emergency donut. Signed, Homer. Bastard! He's always one step ahead.
So I think I've used because sometimes I leave myself notes too. I think I must have used that at least once on myself.
It's great. I mean, I've insulted both past and future me at various times in the past. I should probably do this. Future me can suck it up. When I get around to it, damn past me, he's so lazy.
Right.
But, I mean, as Homer's having this negotiation for this donut, Burns and Smithers are watching on the security cameras. Smithers, who's that goatee-legged fellow? I like the cut of his jib. That's the Prince of Darkness, sir. He's your 11 o'clock.
Which you're completely unsurprised. If Burns wasn't the devil himself, he at least knew him, so it makes perfect sense.
Which actually informs one of my favorite Burns gags. And there are many of them, but there's one where he and Abe vie for the affections of Marge's mother.
Oh, God.
And after they get done dancing, Mrs. Bouvier, whose first name I forget, is leaning on Jacqueline. Thank you. Is leaning on Burns as they're walking out of the building, and Oh, Monty, you're the devil himself. You what the? Who told you? Oh. His immediate response is, "How did you find out?"
Which I have also used on some people before. Mostly people that are big Simpsons nerds like me. So they finish the bit, so it's all good.
Oh, you're the devil. Who told you? But now Flanders as the devil is tremendous because he's still Flanders. I mean, he's the devil, but he still has the Flanders idiosyncrasies with speaking. All right, now as soon as you finish that donut, I get your soul. Wait a minute. So if I don't finish this donut, you don't get my soul. Yeah, well, technically.
I'm
and
still
then
the devil.
You are not smarter than. Then he, reverts. But every other time, they keep him as Flanders functionally when he shows up to actually claim Homer. Yeah, finishing something, Simpson. Of course, that also leads to another great kind of non sequitur. When everyone walks in as Homer's being sucked into hell, Homer, did you eat that donut? No. And then Bart walks in. Oh, hey, devil. Hey, Bart.
Well,
isn't my father entitled to due process? Oh, these are always so much easier in Mexico.
It makes logical sense too that Bart would would on some level know the devil too. So
well, that's very true. And then when he gets stuck in the portal to hell because Homer's fat, your wide behind won't save you this time.
That also leads to the whole ironic punishment division, which got in.
You like donuts, do you? Have all the donuts in the world.
Which got which got immortalized in a McFarlane Toys figure that I really need to get at some point. I don't know how easy or difficult it is to find or if it's valuable or not, but I gotta get my hands on that toy at some point. It's really good.
I don't understand. James Coco went mad in 15 minutes.
And then, you've already got a great premise and you've got a great episode with, with Flanders as the devil and with Homer in hell for eating a forbidden donut. And then you bring Lionel Hutz into the equation.
Oh God!
And Phil Hartman, man.
Oh,
in most cases, he can. In pretty much any case, when you're talking about a Simpsons role that he plays, he can do no wrong. He outdid himself with this one. Just for I ask you, what is a contract? Webster's defines a contract as an agreement under the law which is unbreakable. Which is unbreakable. And he just bails on him. The timing of that, the timing of that is pitch perfect. Like I can't. That's one of the few jokes that I can watch repeatedly and still laugh at.
Oh, and when he does his fast talking in the beginning, and you realize just how unprepared he is. Mr.
He's
Simpson,
combing his hair with a
fork. Mr. Simpson, I believe we have a very strong case. I watched Matlock in a bar last night. The sound wasn't on, but I think I got the joke. What bar are you in that plays Matlock?
They had another. It was like a deleted scene where it was like they're calling him up and it's Lionel Hutz. Cases 1 or your pizza is free. That's also the deleted scene with Bart.
Up at the end. Well, I'm sorry, but here's your pizza, Mr. Hutz. We won. That's okay. The box is empty.
Yeah, and in between that is the one where, is the part where Bart is like, I'd sell my soul for a Formula One race car.
That can be arranged.
Change my mind.
Only Bart would troll the devil.
And it kind of worked because, Bart, stop pestering Satan.
The jury of the damned is great.
The jury of the
Richard
damned.
Nixon, but I'm not dead. Hi, I did a favor for you. Yes.
Which is our second Nixon reference in 2 days. Which is our second Simpsons Nixon reference in 2 days, actually. Funny how that works out. I'm
really sad I couldn't work in a Nixon head reference from Futurama from yesterday's show.
So,
Nixon always wins.
You'll get your chance. Some of my favorite reactions, some of my favorite interactions in this episode are actually between like Flanders and Lionel Hutz because what let's establish some ground rules. First, we get bathroom breaks every 10 minutes. Agreed. Number 2, the jury will be chosen by me.
Agreed. Wait, silence.
No, but I actually like the very Flanders way that he says silence. Like, he says it really, like, not very forcefully. He just goes silent, like Flanders would. That's a little thing that always got a chuckle out of me.
I think my biggest kick out of that episode, visually, apart from the very end, which, I mean, you can't get better than Homer as a donut. But when the jury awards Homer's soul to Marge, and Flanders as the devil goes, oh, his whole body kind of sags. And not just his physique. His mustache droops a little more. His horns droop. I mean, everything droops as in this moment of, oh.
I think that's once again, that's another David Silverman episode, so there
Probably.
You go. You'll start seeing it too, I think, if you look back. If you start checking credits or anything, if you're inclined to do that, kind of, but I tend to do that a lot, so I know a lot of, and like I said, I listen to a lot of the DVD commentaries, so I usually know who directed what or who animated what or who remembers certain things about certain things. But
yeah, that was David Silverman, because he did all of those from number 4, which included Terror at 5.5 Feet, which actually explains a lot of the animation of the gremlin looking so good.
Yep. Yeah, he's one of the, if his name's on an episode, I don't know if this is actually, I know this is not the earliest episode he ever did, but he also did Homer's triple bypass. So that whole scene of Homer having the heart attack and just completely like spasming all over the place, like that's kind of his trademark, stuff like that.
Sir, this man is dead. Send his widow a ham. Ham. Sir, he's alive. Cancel the ham. Oh, no.
Hey.
Isn't that the first appearance of Dr. Nick as well in that episode?
Dr. Nick, no. I think that's when Bart gets hit by a car is the first appearance of Dr. Nick and Lionel Hutz, I think.
Bart getting hit by that car. I can never remember exactly when Dr. Nick first showed up, but him taking direction from Lisa, who's in the gallery for Homer's heart surgery.
Thanks, little girl.
I know the red thing's connected to my wristwatch. Uh-oh. Dr. Nick, where did you hide the bodies? Oh, what a lovely day. I think I'll go out the window. Yeah, the devil and Homer. All right, Homer, you win. You get your soul back. But let that ill-gotten donut be forever on your head. Oh, Homer, stop picking at it. But I'm so tasty. Well, time to go to work. I wouldn't go out there, Dad. Don't worry, boys. He's got to come out sometime.
Which, you would never expect. And that's an ending I would have never expected out of that episode. Like, even knowing that, it's the Flanders as a devil episode, and it has this completely off the wall ending. It's just, I can't say enough.
It's so perfectly Flanders, though. And this is one of the reasons I love Devil Flanders so much. If you get away with cheating the devil, theoretically, there's always consequences. There's always a loophole. There's always something. And if Flanders is the devil, his revenge is not going to be, as painful or as profound as the normal devil. So him just, let that ill-gotten donut be forever on your head. Turning his head into a donut is just evil enough to be the devil, but amusing enough to be Flanders. And it's the perfect marriage of those two characters is Homer's inevitable fate in that short.
And now I celebrate every year by having a forbidden Halloween donut.
Oh. He sold me his soul for a donut, which I provided. It was scrum-diddly-umptious.
Once again, Flanders as the devil still being Flanders.
Oh, yeah, it's great, just him still being Flanders. And that marriage, I think you're correct when you say it's this stroke of comedic genius, surpassing pretty much everything else, is just, well, who's the devil in the Simpsons universe? Flanders. Okay, then.
Sure, why not?
Just retroactively in my head, all other references to the devil in The Simpsons are now Devil Flanders, including when Bart gets hit by that car and, oh, is there any way I can avoid coming back here? Yeah, but you won't like it. And the one from Ghost Dad, where he winds up getting noogied. Oh, stop it. You'll wake up John Wayne.
I'm already awake.
I'm already up. Yeah, Devil Flanders is just, it's great. There aren't enough superlatives, certainly in my vocabulary, to express Devil Flanders adequately. All right, was there anything else we wanted to touch on? Anything else that you wanted to bring up? Any other, antagonists, any other shorts, anything that comes to your mind?
Well, like I said, I had a couple of, honorable mentions, and probably I think we covered most of them, but Dr. Hibbert as Dr. Moreau was pretty good. Mostly for the ending where they just kind of accept being mutated animals because it's, it's easier.
It's Mr. Burns with a new fox attitude. All you can do is eat and sleep and mate and wallow around in your own filth and sleep. And where do I sign up?
Yeah,
make a good walrus, Dad. Yeah, I haven't been this thin since high school.
And then I think my only other honorable mention is Marge and Patty and Selma as witches.
Easy Bake Coven.
Easy Bake Coven, and
great idea. I just wish we hadn't filled up on kids before we got to the Flanders.
That was great. I don't know if caramel cod is
it's got to be a thing somewhere.
I'm sure somebody's tried it.
That also, the bit of wordplay at the end that I use frequently from that episode. It didn't take long for this yearly custom to become an annual tradition.
Yeah, that's a favorite of mine too.
Come on out, we know you're in there. Give us candy, Dad. That's our house.
She's a witch. That's I think
you finally left Durwood. His name is even which Patty and Selma still.
That's a really obscure reference to that. Once again, now I don't think everybody would get, on the first viewing, and then you find out later what it's about.
Yeah, when you get the Durwood reference, it's better, but it's still funny because it's a funny sounding name. Much like Fry's grandfather being, Gomer Pyle.
Yeah.
And there's my Futurama reference for the show that I didn't have to shoehorn in quite like Nixon's head.
There you go.
I'd be remiss without mentioning I Know What You Diddly Idly Did, which is a really interesting kind of parody of I Know What You Did Last Summer, where Flanders turns out to be a werewolf. Just because, and for two reasons. Because as far as earworms go, the little jingle for, can't get enough of those sugar snacks, Homer replacing that with, I guess I forgot to put the fog lights in, always kind of gets in my head for some reason. And then at the end, when he's attacking Homer, and Homer kind of, Flanders, cut it out. And then you hear a choking sound of, eyes bigger than your stomach, eh, Wolfie?
Oh, man.
Of course, Flanders also, as he turns into a werewolf, snarling diddly. Just...
Once again, Flanders still being Flanders at heart. I just thought that was kind of a weird turn just because it started out, of course, as in, and I Know What You Did Last Summer parody, and then it turned into a werewolf stories for some reason. I mean, it's still funny, but...
All right, there's two others I want to mention very briefly. One, because I love the way it plays in most ways, is The Fright to Creep and Scare Harm, which deals with the town of Springfield destroying all their firearms, and this firearmless society being some kind of mythical trigger to bring back Billy the Kid, Frank and Jesse James, and Butch Cassidy and Kaiser Wilhelm. And Homer travels back in time to remind the people of Springfield that no, don't destroy your guns. We have to kill these. How to explain this to a child? Future Daddy had to extra kill these zombies. And then as soon as that happened, more future Homer comes in. People of Springfield, I come from another future where gun violence has ended the earth itself. After which Moe just shoots him because they've had enough of this. And he goes, now to get me some caveman hookers.
Oh, yeah, the caveman hookers line. I definitely remember that part.
And there's another Ned bit where he basically plays the role of Dexter.
I do remember hearing about that. I don't think I saw all of it.
It's not bad, especially because they parody the Dexter opening, which the opening kind of title sequence to Dexter, absolutely tremendous. You know, the show may have gone off a cliff, but that opening bit with him doing everyday things with this utterly like sinister bent that you can't quite put your finger on is one of the best openings in all of television. In the case of Flanders, they turn it a little bit and have him doing things that look ominous but turn out to be harmless. And then he kills people because he hears the voice of God telling him to do so, and it turns out it's Homer.
Right.
But Flanders makes a great, especially in the Treehouse of Horror when they can play around with him a little bit. Ned Flanders' Hell House amuses me for several reasons.
I don't think I saw that one.
It's in 18.
Oh man, I definitely almost spotted that. I didn't see it then.
Yeah, it's the second. It's the third of 18, which contains E.T. Go Home, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Heck House, where he tries to set kids straight.
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't work very well, so he actually prays and obtains devilish powers.
Sounds about right.
He turns into the devil again, basically, and it's still it's pretty good. So Flanders in those episodes, when they play around with that, it's usually good for a laugh. And on that note, the Devil Flanders and all of his various escapades throughout the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror series, I do believe we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you're listening live, there's about 15 seconds left, so thank you. We're going to do plugs and get out of here. So thank you very much for listening live. Much appreciated. Ben, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for reminding me I promised to do this because it's been a lot of fun. Revisiting some of these episodes in preparation for this was a blast for me. And, people that I can geek out with about The Simpsons tend to be not few and far between, but it's slightly more obscure geekdom, all things considered. And knowing that you and I can trade quotes and have fun with that, thank you for being here. I appreciate it tremendously.
Hey, I've been looking forward to this for a while. Anytime I can talk Simpsons with somebody, I'm pretty excited and pretty happy.
So what do you got to plug that you didn't, in addition to your plugs from yesterday?
I have fewer plugs today because I don't have to plug this episode.
Nice.
As always, as ever, I write, draw, self-publish a comic called Soul Exodus. You can find it and me online on my website, soulexo.com, facebook.com/soulexo, on Twitter @soulexocomic. And we just wrapped up Long Road to Ruin, talking about Hannibal Lecter. Check that out. Rambly though I may be in it, we cover some interesting.
We all ramble
topics.
pretty heavily in that over those 2 episodes.
Yeah, it was still enjoyable. That's another topic I don't get to talk about too much, which is Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal Lecter as a character in general. So that was a great time. And I will be back doing title cards for Long Road to Ruin. Apparently they're doing Harry Potter next week, so I gotta get going on something. Hopefully I'll be able to have something for Long Road to Ruin for next week, and hope to continue doing more of that in the foreseeable future. Also, Sketchbook Saturday, which is where the Devil Flanders sketch came from. I do every Saturday on Twitter and Facebook, and it's basically just whatever comes to mind. I'll do at least one sketch on a Saturday and tweet it out to the art-loving public, such as it is. And I take requests, I take suggestions. I'll draw whatever I can.
You should draw Abe Simpson yelling at the cloud again. Because
well, I already did that.
I know. I just got such a kick out of it.
I did. Mostly because old
man yells at cloud is one of my favorite gags, especially because he turns holding the newspaper clipping and then yells at the cloud again in an exact duplicate.
It's one of those things that just works for so many different things. It's like football in the groin. It works on so many levels.
George C. Scott won an Oscar.
Exactly. And I bet Kubrick directed him too. I bet that took 50 157 takes, but he got it.
Get me the non-union Mexican equivalent of Steven Spielberg. All right, Senior Spielbergo.
Schindler es bueno, Senor Burns es el diablo.
Nonsense. We both made munitions for the Germans. Mine just happened to work.
Oh man, we'll be here the rest of the night doing this.
Saying boo or boo earns?
Boo earns.
I was saying boo earns. It's always Mo or Mole Man. It's one of those two.
Right. I think that's all the plugs I got, though.
All right. As for me, this coming Sunday, after a 2-week hiatus, the 411 Ground and Pound radio show is back. There's a lot of news to talk about, some fights being made, GSP having a contract dispute with the UFC, Michael Bisping still ducking deserving contenders because he knows as soon as he fights one, he's done. Seriously, he's angling for a GSP fight while the totality of the middleweight top 10 go, I can beat this guy. Well, not all of them can, but certainly the top 5 or 6 I would favor. And we'll be previewing UFC Fight Night 98. It's the finale of The Ultimate Fighter Latin America Season 3. I don't care about that card except for the main event because Tony Ferguson and Rafael Dos Anjos are going to fight. And I'm a fan of both guys. I love me some Tony Ferguson. So that'll be a good event to preview. That's this coming Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in. Should be a lot of fun. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I never plug my Twitter because I always forget. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at Winfree MMA. That's WINFREE MMA because that's normally what I tweet about. Not exclusively, but frequently. So if you want to follow me over there, have at it. I welcome followers. Hope I don't bore you too much. And I think that's it. This Tuesday, Mark Radulich and I will be reviewing Inferno, Ron Howard's latest adaptation of a Dan Brown novel, featuring Tom Hanks reprising his role as Robert Langdon. I am about halfway through the book now and should have it done by the time I go see the movie on Tuesday. So tune in to Damn You Hollywood for that. Should be a lot of fun. Benjamin, thank you again for being here.
One last thing in the tradition of Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes, we got to come up with scary or horrifying names. I vote for you. I vote Robert Skinfree.
All right.
And let's go with Benjamin Slay Cologne. So
you should go with Flay just because you can then pretend to be aping Bobby Flay, that ginger.
I'm not a big Bobby Flay fan, but that probably works, lyrically a little bit better. So sure, we'll go with that.
All right. So for Benjamin Slay Cologne, I'm Robert Skinfree. Thank you all for being here and for tuning in. Feedback is always welcome. You can follow us. You can find the Radulich and Broadcasting Network on Blog Talk, iTunes, and Stitcher. You can follow them on Facebook, which is the best way to get consistent updates. So by all means, do all of that. Hope you will continue to tune in to other shows. Until next time, thank you again for being here. And as the usual sign off, please continue to be well, be safe, and behave.
So say good night to the bad guy.